It is Monday, June 30th, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. Yes, it is not Sunday, folks, because both me and my guest were busy at Toronto Pride having a good time, and then the heat beat the shit out of me, and I had to go home and sleep early. But it was a good march and a good parade, and we'll be talking a bit about that and other stuff. He's a repeat guest. You know him well. He is a former school board trustee, a former candidate for the NDP down in Spadina, Fort York, or Spadina Harbourfront, multiple iterations, and a local advocate. And I'm happy to have him back on the program because he's always fun to talk to, and he's just a cool dude in general. And it is Norm Di Pasquale. Norm, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and happy Pride and happy Pride Month.
Thank you. We are right on the final day of Pride Month, and so far it has been a better Pride Month than I anticipated, considering the global collapse of society.
Yeah, I mean, tough times really in terms of, inclusion, diversity for the 2S LGBTQ plus community with Trump with his various cuts and inroads to our human rights. I just felt like it was a really important day to go march with the company I work for.
Right.
Because
especially with companies like pulling out of sponsoring Pride this year because Donald Trump essentially gave them permission to be bigoted again in public.
Well, that's it. So it just seemed like such a good time to highlight how this is good for your brand, good for your organization to march in the Pride Parade.
Especially in Canada, where, like, don't get me wrong, we do have some problems with social regressive movements, but so far, like, gay acceptance of gay rights is thankfully in a good place. Trans people were having a bit of backsliding, but we're also one of the better places in the world for it, and it's good to have moments of joy like this.
Absolutely. The Trans March was also fantastic.
Yeah. And that and the Dyke March, like, they were both, like, and it's important to have those big, like, swells of public. I'm thinking of, like, what we saw in Hungary, too, with, like, Viktor Orban tried to make it essentially illegal to have the Pride Parade. So what they just did was so many people came, like hundreds of thousands, the largest Pride Parade in the country's history, that police couldn't even try and think about doing it. Like, and some people complained, oh, people are coming from other European countries. And I'm like, well, there are people who come from America and other countries to Toronto Pride. And they have a good time. And I'm happy to have them here. Like, their support for human rights should transcend borders.
That's right. That's what solidarity and allyship looks like.
Yeah, it's like we're going to Hungary because we want queer people in Hungary to have, basic rights.
Exactly. I'll stand for that. If I was nearby, I would have went too.
True. It's unfortunately I do not have the money for the plane ticket at the moment, but I'm glad it went well. And talking on like the companies that are boycotting, I know like Brad Bradford tried to create a whole thing. Because Olivia Chow told people in some form or another that it should impact how they see Home Depot, for example, and do business with them. And I think that's a perfectly valid and reasonable complaint to make. I know, I mean, I'm not exactly like a big burly man, but like I go to Home Depot like on occasion, like for a lot of stuff. I was just there the other month getting a Torx screwdriver just to open some electronic at my home. And I'll be going to Home Hardware now for that shit, or I'll be going to Roma. It's just, and like Brad Bradford was like, oh, she's trying to boycott Canadian jobs, and I'm like, well, maybe they should think I have a right to exist if they want my money.
Well, exactly. And then they pulled out at the last minute, leaving Pride Toronto really in the lurch because they were supposed to supply all the garbage bags and other supplies.
Yeah, a real asshole move. And it was felt because when I was trying to figure out where, like, I drank, I went to the Rabba convenience store, like, right before we entered, like, the March holding pen, because the route has gotten even longer this year, which is a good sign.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I bought like a 1.5 liter bottle of water, and within 10 minutes I'd finished the whole thing because it was so goddamn hot.
It was hot.
Yeah. And
I was dancing and fanning through the Pride Parade.
Yeah. And that's what's killing me with like when people are like, oh, it's such great weather for the parade. I'm like, no, it's not. You don't want it to be like overcast or raining. But like I would like Pride perhaps to move to the fall so we can have a nice autumn breeze for our several-hour march. Like, it's like whenever someone, like when the sun is beating down at 30 degrees and someone says, oh, it's a great day for golf. And as someone who's played golf on occasion, no. Like, you do not want to play a sport for 5 hours in the beating sun, and doing a march for 3 hours is essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like I did a few rounds with a boxer at the end of that march. It was, I just, as soon as I dropped all the supplies off, I just went straight home. That was the end of, and then unfortunately for me, my son wanted to play tennis later on that evening. So, the life of a typical dad there.
I know, and I feel bad, but like I did the same thing after the march was done. Like I didn't even like stick around to talk with people. Like I just, I had just immediately burst into the Eden Center to find a washroom because when we got to Yonge and Dundas and then we turned right, I got scared because that's usually where it ends. And I'm like, wait, how much longer are we going?
Right. I was very worried. Are we going all the way down Dundas?
I know.
Dundas protest now.
And it just took us a little bit to Nathan Phillips, which, you know what, I like that. If they want to have like an after party thing in Nathan Phillips, that's cool. But it's like I had to run to a washroom and then I just immediately went home and then I like crashed to my bed and woke up 6 hours later because it's like the heat just takes so much out of you and those kind of things. You can walk for a couple hours in like more breezy weather, but the heat is killer.
It sure is. I don't know how you make it without constantly fanning yourself. I was, as I mentioned, fanning and dancing at the same time.
Yeah. For those listening at home, though, the heat is not an excuse to not go. You still have to go. And if you didn't go, I am judging you. I am judging you harshly.
Yeah, I mean, at least while we were waiting for the parade to start, we were down in Rosedale Valley, and it was just.
That part, the holding pen they've come up with, I actually liked because you were under a bunch of like thick trees and shade.
Yes.
So, and they had 2 porta potties, so they had a proper setup figured out before they sent you down the starting line. I do.
It worked very well.
Yeah, but honestly, there's a part of me that I want to start going more to like smaller town pride parades, like the ones where it's not that many people and also they kind of need the show of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Not that I don't love having this in Toronto every year, but like I feel like I get a bit too. My frame of mind is a bit too Toronto or Montreal or like big city acclimated. Like there are a lot of difficulties that are had in smaller locales in this country. We don't necessarily talk about them, but it can be rough.
Yeah, some jurisdictions have taken down the pride flags on their city buildings. So I think it's really important to represent in those smaller
because they're pieces of shit.
Well said. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
I've been part of a pride flag fight, and it's worth fighting for and being on the winning side.
Oh yeah, it's like I remember when what's his name he used to be a Liberal cabinet minister in the old days under Kretchen or Martin, and he runs in an Italian language newspaper, and Volpe. Volpe. I'm familiar with his son mainly from his auto lobby industry advocacy and which I have a different problem with that just because I'm a public transit nut. But like I remember when Joe Volpe, like in his newspaper, was like there should only be 2 flags: the Canadian flag and the flag of the Christian cross. And I'm like, and then didn't he sue Kristen Wong-Tam for calling him a homophobe?
Yeah, I was part of that lawsuit.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't remember that part. Were you one of the ones he sued too?
Fierce warrior. So it's an honor to be on the right side of that one.
Yeah, I forget. Were you one of the ones he sued as well?
Yes. Yeah, fun. I was in the suit.
And so, you guys won the suit though, which is always great when you get sued. Like it's better than losing a suit.
At the Supreme Court, we won, and I think we set up some new defenses for people who stand up for the 2S LGBTQ plus, people in like a publicly elected position. So it was a fight worth having.
Oh, you've set up legal defenses for the columns I write.
Good.
Don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we'll find out.
If it keeps you writing, it's a good thing.
Well, folks, if you do want me to keep writing, please buy a paid subscription to my Substack. I need to eat food this month.
Makes sense.
It would be very nice.
You, Jake. I'm doing
it. And I haven't gone to a Jays game yet this season because even those $25 500 levels are looking a little pricey when you think about concessions.
Yes, I got some Black Friday tickets for $9 personally.
Ooh, fun. Now, speaking of downtown attractions that aren't as good as they used to be, the Ontario Science Centre and the Ontario Place are in a not great state.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no, they aren't. We recently released some new plans, which include a massive overground parking lot. For Ford quoted, over 3,000 cars, and a multi-level parking lot on the south side of the waterfront, which is like the last place you want to put a parking lot.
And
like,
it's several times larger than the very large tower lots they have by a bunch of suburban GO stations, which just doesn't make sense because this is right beside Exhibition GO. This is right beside the Ontario line, which is maybe the one good thing that Doug Ford does in his life. I know at some point they've been talking about building a people mover between the exhibition station and Ontario Place, which is a good idea, and that should just be built regardless. The parking garage is drawing a lot of criticism, even from right-wing circles. I was listening in on the John Oakley show on 6:40 a.m. here in Toronto, and he had Adam Vaughn on again to talk about this. And the parking garage is not a popular site, and also the Therme plans seem to pretty much confirm most of that is not going to be anywhere close to publicly accessible or enjoyable.
No, that's exactly right. It's indefensible. $400 million of our money going to a massive monstrosity parking lot.
I mean, they're paying Adam to defend it.
Well, they sure are. He's getting paid a pretty penny over there. He used to be on our side, waited 3 hours at an Ontario Place rally so he could speak. And, I guess, life is expensive. Maybe getting your kids to university is expensive. And now Adam Vaughn's joined the dark side.
Well, that's how you folks know I haven't sold out yet, because I'm still doing this, and I yell at too many rich people to be paid any money.
I appreciate your brave advocacy, Jake.
Some call it brave, others call it lifetime unemployment. We're gonna find out which.
I'm still employed. If it makes you feel any better.
You're employed. Yeah. You're employed. Me, not so much. But we're having fun times. I don't pay rent. So I live with my folks. So that works, and for about more than half a Gen Z, I guess. A fun economy we've built for ourselves, and I'm so glad that Olivia Chow gave up on sixplexes across the city.
That's heartbreaking. My goodness. I mean,
well, it's a good thing she doesn't have a strong mayor power or anything that would have allowed her to pass it with only a third of council. Could you imagine if she had the power to do it and she just refused to because of a rule she made up in her head?
Yeah, I mean, what if that is? If only she had the power.
I'm glad to know that I'm not the only I'm a bit more left than center left, I'd say, at this point. But I'm glad to know I'm not the only left winger in this city who's a little fucking disappointed at this point.
I mean, if we want to house people, this is one real quick and dirty, easy way to do it. And now we don't have it. And I mean,
it's I live in North York, so I won't be in one of the parts of the city because Rachel Chernos-Wynn decided to speak for me and say that North York doesn't want affordable housing. And again, while I do love living with my parents, I would also love to maybe not live with my parents.
Yep. I mean, I grew up in North York, and there's lots of places there that could use those sixplexes to bring housing costs down.
Oh, yeah. I remember 10 days before Jay Robinson died, I was having an argument with her at a at one of those community consultations for an affordable housing building right beside Leaside High School, where the Line 5, the Eglinton LRT station, is about to open. And to call it an argument is actually unfair to me, because I just said, "Hi, counselor, I'm your constituent. This is the riding I grew up in. A lot of my friends went to this high school, and I think that with all the transit accessibility and everything, this would be a very nice idea to make sure that people like us can continue to live in the community we grew up in." And then she responded that I was an interloper, that I wasn't a real member of the community, and that she wasn't going to listen to anything I say. And then 10 days later, she died. And I'm like,
What a horrible last interaction.
I am like, I know they're supposed to say, like, don't speak ill of the dead, but, like, my mate is like, what? That's your last week on Earth.
I mean, she had that quote that Toronto should be a living museum, frozen in time. Where
I remember someone said it should be a mausoleum, and I guess that might be more fitting now than before. God.
Well, yeah, I mean, the transit is a housing opportunity, and not to see those two as interconnected is a huge miss for our elected officials.
Oh yeah, especially because, like, in Tokyo and in a lot of Asian countries, like, a lot of how they make building transit profitable, or at least heavily subsidize costs, but in some cases do make it outright profitable, is they heavily develop the air rights at every single station. Like, I look at Line 5 because we're talking about it on Eglinton, and, like, you see, like, all of these, like, giant glass boxes, and they have nothing on top of them, and it is aggressively stupid. Like, you should have a store and a housing on top of it. Like, you should have, like, retail that gets people going in there to buy things, and above that, you should have places for people to live. Like, and that's how you make, that's why we have such higher costs, or at least it's one reason we have such higher costs to build public transit in this country, because we're not using the main strategies to reduce costs.
Well, that's it. And, really, you're not building transit, you're building communities. That's the way you should be looking
Well, exactly. Like, the whole point is to, like, tie, like, a network of people together and make it easier to move around. I know they're, like, on the Stouffville line and the Lakeshore East line, there's the Scarborough stop. Only the Lakeshore East GO line stops there, but not the Stouffville line. And that is kind of stupid, because you want people to be able to transfer there so that they don't have to go all the way into Union to transfer. But we do not appear to have a provincial government that cares much about Metrolinx, considering we fired the Germans we hired to make the trains run on time.
Exactly. I mean, they do a lot of things right there in Europe, and we really could have benefited from that experience.
Well, and what's really I remember reading a Trillium article where it just says there are Metrolinx senior executives who think it's out of scope or an extravagance or frivolous for GO to run trains frequently in both directions. We have a public transit agency where they don't think the trains should run frequently in both directions.
Yeah,
we are in hell.
If your job or something, like, if you're not heading towards your job, your transit trip is irrelevant.
I know. It's like, I'm sorry, like, they're stuck in the period of when it was a commuter rail system, and it's grown well beyond that to regional rail at this point. It's like, you cannot look at people taking Lakeshore into a Jays game or a Toronto FC game and tell me that this is solely a commuter system. Like, I don't think all of those people play for the team.
Yeah, I would say half the stadium is with people coming in from the GO. Like, it's probably getting to about that number.
Well, because who's going to park downtown? Like, so and that's what, going back around to the parking garage they'll have outside Ontario, like, what moron drives their car into downtown Toronto?
Yeah,
it's like
the right word.
Yeah, it's like the same when I saw someone complaining they couldn't take their car into Old Montreal, and I'm like, yes, because you're not supposed to. Like, that's what the metro is for. Like, that's why they close 40 streets and make them pedestrian only, because you don't need a car.
Yeah, exactly. Montreal is walkable. The
Oh,
real way to experience it is to walk it. Now, I know Toronto's a little bigger and maybe you can't quite walk it, but that parking lot's super redundant. Like 7,000 parking spots already at the X. There's Go, TTC, Ontario line.
if anything, they should be taking away parking.
Yes, exactly.
Like they should be building more shit. Like it's just it's frustrating. It's not the
How much
kind of
affordable housing could you with 400 million?
I
That's a
know
pretty good number.
it's like a city where the trains are getting worse and the housing is getting more expensive and the food is unaffordable. Like this isn't the kind of city I want to live in. Like
It's getting harder and harder.
yeah.
Everybody's, we're having a mass exodus from the city, from the province. Something's got to give.
It's like I keep on saying at some point I think I might just move to Montreal because is it like affordable? No, but is it more affordable than Toronto? Yeah, because they do just make housing fairly easier to build. Like and also it's just Olivia Chow would never do what Valerie Plant did when it comes to bike lanes or pedestrian only streets. Like
Val Plante is an incredible mayor, and people were saying if you go to Montreal Jazz Fest, just be careful because you may end up moving there, starting a family. So just be careful when you go to Jazz Fest. You may find yourself staying there.
That's the secret Ontario Liberal plan to get rid of my complaints. Just wait for me to move to Montreal.
That's it.
I think that will be our final topic before we go into our half break. Liberal drama, NDP drama, fun times in both our parties, federally and the federal NDP are having an interesting go of it. The provincial Liberals are having an interesting go of it. The Ontario NDP seems stable at the moment, and I respect that stability. Federal NDP in Ontario might be having a bit of a harder time. But I as an NDPer, I would actually like to get your thoughts mainly on the Bonnie Crombie situation and what you think about the campaign, which seems mainly by progressives and spoiler slightly includes me to oust her in the leadership review, because I have heard fair points that some people are saying, well, why are these progressives wasting effort on a Liberal Party that doesn't want them? Maybe they should just go and join the Ontario NDP, and then the Ontario NDP would win more in elections. And now, to be fair, I'm part of that effort that may appear hopeless to some, but I have also thrown down an ultimatum that if Crombie stays on, I go, because I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, I'm glad that there's a place for you all to have your voice heard, and it's great to see people coming together.
Well, we'll see if the voice is heard yet.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, at least it's being heard somewhat online, and you're growing a movement, which is, I think, what the greatest grassroots advocacy is all about. With respect to Crombie, I mean, she did make certain commitments when she was elected leader, like one election, and that's all it's going to take, and obviously didn't get anywhere close to there. I see the other side saying that the Liberals have changed quite a few leaders recently, but do you need a leader that has enough daylight between them and Doug Ford? I think is a very good question to be asking. So yeah, I applaud your efforts, and I applaud the efforts of your group, and I really hope you guys get your voice heard.
Hopefully. Well, thank you. And I mean, it will be an interesting one because thankfully the ballot will be on paper and you will not be raising your hand in an open room, because that one might dissuade dissent against the leader.
Yeah, that can be absolutely intimidating.
Yeah, but I'm happy in general that unlike the federal Liberals, where Trudeau just had to be pressured out, in the Ontario Liberals and in the NDP as well, both federally and provincially, I believe, there's just an actual leadership review mechanism where you're like, this person isn't working.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get what some people mean. It's like you don't want to throw out a leader necessarily on the first go if they make progress. Some people cite Dalton McGuinty, but Dalton McGuinty won his seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not winning the seat hurts, and the open seat that was in, I think it was Milton, that by-election. We're all scratching our heads about why she didn't run there.
Well, it was because she was afraid. She was afraid she couldn't win, and it appears she was right to be afraid. And
Yeah, and it seems
yeah,
like, reading a little more, people in Milton were puzzled as to why she wasn't running and didn't really know this candidate coming to the door. So it just seems like a misstep
yeah.
as well.
And mind you, I'm friends with the candidate, Galen Naidu Harris. Like, I like him. It's like he was a good candidate, but like it was just weird that she didn't pick that one to run. And like she couldn't get elected in like what should have been a pretty safe Mississauga riding for the former mayor.
Yeah, that hurts really badly.
Compare it in the 2022 Ontario provincial election in Barrie. Jeff Lehman, who ran for the Liberals and was the former mayor, came like in a razor thin margin. I think like maybe like less than 100 votes. So it's like, yeah. So it's like she did not meet the standard that I would set for other people in that specific party in that specific position.
Like, that's a great example. Like that landing, that was razor thin.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. The other thing is people also bring up Poilievre and the federal conservatives too, and how he didn't win his seat. And I also love pointing out when liberals are hypocritical about this on social media, because it's always just a cheap dunk for me to make. And listen, cheap dunks. The thing about they're like the fast food of dunks. It's like, is McDonald's especially good for you? No, but it feels good when you like, especially like 2 a.m.
Yeah, he's the moment.
Yeah. I forgot what I was just talking about. I got too into my metaphor.
Well, yeah, just talking about Crombie and the sort of comparing, contrasting against other.
Oh yeah, but the contrast to Pierre Poilievre is that at least he has an actual pathway to win a seat. Like, he's going to have a by-election in the middle of August, and he will probably win. I think that the separatist elements may give him a bit of a fun time and lower that margin a bit, but there is no chance in hell where anyone to the left of Attila the Hun is winning that election.
Well, that's exactly right. That's as surefire as it gets.
No, yeah. It's just like the riding may as well be called like the Yankee Oasis.
Yeah. I don't know what to say there, but it's surefire, slam dunk. There's just no way. Like, don't even campaign and you win it.
And I don't know how I feel that Mark Carney gave that to him so quickly, because we know the favor would not have been reversed. And I do not think that liberals and leftists should get in the habit of making our rivals' jobs easier.
It's a good point. I mean, I understand the whole no games thing, but that was extremely fast.
No, it's more than no games. It just feels like flat out just like empowering your opposition for no reason. Like, the people voted on whether or not they wanted him to be an MP. They voted no.
Yeah. So they did.
And you know what? Like, he can run in a by-election, that's fine. But like, there is no right for it to be called at the earliest opportunity, especially when in Alberta, Ms. Danielle Smith waited things out for Naheed Nenshi until literally the last day she legally could.
Yeah, that felt like an eon. Wasn't that well over a year? That was unbelievable.
Yeah, so I don't feel like showing conservatives kindness that they will then use to make it easier to strip away people's rights. And like I would show the NDP that kindness, absolutely. With the Greens, the Bloc, yes. But it's specifically the conservatives I would not do that for.
You do not want to give Poilievre a soapbox.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No, yeah. And that may be biased to people, and people may say, well, that doesn't seem like a perfectly fair democracy. And yeah. But also, like, they don't think I should have rights.
Absolutely.
So it isn't really a fair fight.
Yeah, he's called like the sex ed curriculum radical, and he's saying that Trudeau was teaching it at schools. Like, who is this person? It's very extreme. Kind of the last person you want to give a podium to.
He wants to adopt the same policies the U.S. has for people who write about Palestine, and I would like to not be in jail.
Yeah, I want to get a jail free, please. No jail for me.
And folks, if you would like to listen to more of me while I still remain a free man and not silenced by the state, then don't go anywhere, because we will be right back after the break. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. You see, folks, while all of my written articles and podcasts are available without a paywall, I need money to make them. Also, I need money to live. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider an optional paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back from the break, and you know what that means, folks. 3 new headline topics, 3 new terrible things in our country to make you depressed and exhausted and sad. But don't worry, we'll talk about them. Kinda funny and kinda not. First headline topic, elbows are down, folks. Canada has rescinded the digital services tax at the demand of Trump without anything in return. And Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, then boasted to American press that Canada and Mark Carney have caved to the United States and Donald Trump because they're such great negotiators, and because everyone needs to have trade with them whether they like it or not. Yeah, I'm not happy.
I'm also very disappointed. The way this played out is the worst possible way the Canadian government could have played it out. Like, forget taco. Maybe it's time for cabo, which is Carney always backs off.
Yeah.
Like, you can't keep appeasing this guy. It doesn't work.
This is some Neville Chamberlain-ass bullshit, Norm.
Yeah. Yes, it sure is.
I thought the appeasement was bad. Like, every day I wake up, it's like there's something new that, like, Carney has conceded. I swear to God, like, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and they're going to say that we're now another territory. Don't worry, Americans will keep us safe because they're bringing guns.
Yeah, well, I'd be worried about supply management if I was a farmer right now.
And that's the funny thing. I fucking hate supply management. It's literally a cartel. Like, it's literally, they're like, it's about stability and prices. And I'm like, you are describing a cartel. It's like, I just want stability in the price of diamonds. So I'm going to if it was not done by the government, it would be called organized crime.
I love it.
And I hate the fact that, like, now people are going to feel a reactionary impulse to defend it. I mean, unless we give it up, then liberals will pretend they always opposed it.
Yeah, it just, we've seen this pattern with Trump. It was first about fentanyl on the border. Then we spent $1.5 billion on the border. Now we're in for
and it's not what anyone voted for Carney to do. They voted for him on a pretty transparent, like, stand up to Trump, like, platform. And and now liberals are pretending that just wasn't what they ran on at all. And it's bullshit. It's horseshit. And it makes me mad. Like, it is some of the maddest I've ever been at the federal party.
It's not elbows up. It's elbows wherever Trump wants them.
Yeah, it's like, I remember, like, I wrote on Twitter yesterday in my furor, at this point, if you think there's a secret moment where Carney will finally stand up for Canadian sovereignty, you're a fool. We elected a Yankee puppet who dances at Trump's pleasure. And it's hard to, like, argue with that because, like, people are like, oh, he's just doing this to prepare for when he'll eventually draw the line. And I'm like, is he going to draw the line when they've already, like, took over our house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I memean, it's a lot of hope and trust right now, and I'm not sure it's well placed. We're now letting,
because none of us know who the fuck this guy is. Like, it's not like he has a like, he's a bureaucratic functionary. Like, the journalists I know who dealt with him in the financial sector all say he's prickly and has never answered questions. It's not new to him being in politics. So it's like, why am I supposed to trust this guy when he keeps on doing things that give me reasons not to trust him? And also, I don't know who he is.
Those things are right. Trust has to be earned. And, we're letting a foreign country dictate our tax policy. Like,
yeah, like
what are
how
we?
can we claim to be a sovereign country? Like, how we're becoming something worse than a 51st state. We're becoming a puppet state. Yeah.
Well, that's it.
And
Somebody else is dictating all of our
at least
terms.
the 51st state would technically get representation as much as America has democracy anymore. But like to be a
that's
colony may be worse.
absolutely worse. I don't know.
I would
Like
prefer
Belarus
neither.
becoming Belarus, Russia or something.
Yeah. And it's like, I know, someone told me that like these negotiations are a give and take. What have we taken? What have we received for everything we've given up? Other to like what every day, like Carney comes and says Trump is respecting our sovereignty, and then 2 hours later, Trump says we shouldn't exist as a country. Like I see weakness. It's pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, the press secretary, Trump's press secretary, rubbed our face in it today, saying that Canada caved, right?
Yeah, and she's right. Like, that's what really made it fucking piss me off, is that she's completely right. Like, they did make us look like fools, and it's stupid. Like, what's our only win we've had for sovereignty? We won a fucking hockey game?
That's it. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Carney had nothing to do with that.
Mike Myers showed up in a political ad and wore a t-shirt on SNL.
Yeah, that's really all we've got.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to be said here? Like, because, like, what is there to be done? Like, if the government is just handing over the keys?
Yeah, and maybe there was another way to do this. Like, you could maybe look ahead and see that this was going to become an irritant, as, the Biden presidency was telling you, and maybe back off of it a bit earlier. But you back off in the 11th hour, you look like a chicken.
And the other thing is, like, I am very, very concerned both with this and the carbon tax and with the capital gains increase that they're doing, that they're doing this bullshit where there's a law passed on the books. Well, not with the capital gains increase, but with the carbon tax and this, there's a law passed on the books. Parliament has exercise their power to create law. It is now the government's job to enforce and execute the law. And the government just says, well, the law says we can change the rate, so we're changing it to 0.
Yeah, it feels like a sneaky workaround to democracy.
Well, I mean, quite simply, like, members of parliament cannot vote for any law that allows the government to change, because the government has shown they will abuse this power. Like, is it a useful thing that is an important flexible tool for a government to use when they're doing good things? Yes. How many good governments do we have?
Yeah, and I didn't like seeing Bill C5 rammed through the way that it was, really, which kind of looks like nearly a copy of Bill 5 in Ontario, and just sort of shoving that through.
I mean, Nate Erskine-Smith would agree with you.
Yeah, it was ugly, very ugly. It didn't respect Indigenous rights, didn't respect, the usual process that bills go through with consultation. It almost looked like how they ran through Bill 5 in Queen's Park, and that's nothing to hang your hat on.
Well, this is the thing. It's like Mark Carney simply comes from a bureaucratic culture where these things are just decisions to be made by him or a delegate, and they're not something that you actually are supposed to answer or talk to the public about. Like, the idea that the public would even know these things happen is like, and I mean, think about what time they released it. They released it last night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time, while the majority of Liberal MPs in Ontario would have been at shit like Pride pub nights after. Like, all the staffers are drunk off their gourd, I can assure you, and probably on a few other different things, if we're being entirely honest. It was put out at a time to bury it, and obviously it didn't fucking work because everyone just talked about it in the morning.
Yeah, that wasn't just burying the news, that was sending it to the core center of the earth.
I know.
You released it Sunday.
But that's the thing. It's like, can you really like bury things like this anymore if they just immediately bring it up on the morning news and then it becomes the entire day's discussion?
Well, that's it. I mean, it failed as a bury tactic. And I think it's probably a lesson that Friday is the day to bury news.
Yeah.
You've got Monday right after, and boy, it's all that the news is talking about today.
Right. Honestly, I'm kind of just hoping the Senate starts to give Carney a bit of a rougher time, like where they start to exercise their statutory and constitutional
Yeah.
authority to provide some sober second thought and say these are
Yeah.
some details that could use improvement. Here are amendments that we are adding to this bill that we will require for it to pass in the Senate. Like these are all things well within their power. Like and
Really.
both the Senate and the Supreme Court, I find sometimes are afraid to do things they have every right to do.
Mhm.
And I mean, at some point, like Mark Carney does have to understand that this is a democracy, not a bureaucracy, and that
Really.
debate and discussion are actually a mandatory part of the process. Uh,
And should be welcome to improve your bill. I
right,
mean, welcome that exchange of ideas, and the NDP will have some ideas. Other parties will have ideas. It'll make the bill better.
right.
That's the approach you need to take.
And I mean, I think he'll come to this realization sooner rather than later because I distinctly remember him promising that all interprovincial trade barriers would be dropped on July 1st. Uh,
Mhm.
do you
Right.
think that's going to happen tomorrow, Norm?
It is not. I think they
I'm
moved the goalpost on
shocked.
that one. They
Yeah.
were saying maybe pass the bill by July 1st, but
No,
no. It was a nice message. Seems to have helped get them elected, but no.
yeah, it turns out the big secret to getting elected is to just lie.
Yeah. Who knew?
But unless you're the NDP, then you can't even promise reasonable things.
Well, yeah,
But
I
no,
don't
we're
know.
not bitter. Moving on to our second topic of the week, folks. Going from the federal to the provincial. In the delightful province of Ontario, under the Khanate of Douglas Ford, Ontario has taken direct control of 4 more school boards due to claimed mismanagement. This includes appointing supervisors to the Toronto District School Board, the Toronto Catholic District School Board, the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, and the Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board. And they're this is very transparent. They have structural financial issues, as Minister Paul Calandra put it. But what Mr. Calandra isn't saying is they have structural financial issues because they're required to run a balanced budget. They cannot issue bonds or go into deficits. They have limited abilities to collect revenue that the province doesn't give them directly, and the province just isn't giving them much. So, this Norm, this seems like a pretty classic Starve the Beast. Right-wing government sabotages public infrastructure to make it malfunction and then says, oh, look, we need to privatize this because public infrastructure doesn't work. And I mean, that's kind of hinted at because they're kind of talking about more big changes. And I feel like that's not the secular Catholic merger that I hope for in my utopian visions.
Yeah, I mean, this is a terrible situation. We're talking about 25% of Ontario students being under management by a supervisor who has no tie whatsoever to education. These are people who have come from P3 projects like the failed Metrolinx, the failed Eglinton LRT and Ottawa LRT, who are now in charge of school boards who know zero about education.
And they'll now have the ability to make cuts that trustees wouldn't because it was politically unpopular with their constituents.
Or simply, cuts that will destroy or sabotage the school board.
Well, I mean, they're the same thing. It's like the cuts would be unpopular with constituents because they would ruin the schools for their children.
Good point.
It's like when they talk about like getting rid of like swimming, it's like I had swimming in my grade 9 gym class at Northern Secondary School. It was great. I mean, like it wasn't where I learned how to swim, but you know what? I'm sure there were a lot of students who had never been in water before that, and that is an important life skill. And it's also just a good thing to have, like in like gym class. It's important to have a variety of like athletic activities that kids can do for like physical education. And also like talking about like cutting out like band, like how are you going to remove music from schools? Like,
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. I mean, I learned to play the trumpet back in grade 6, and I've been playing music all my life thanks to that.
well, like, it really pisses me off because, like, the band teacher, who at Northern was so beloved that in her final year when she retired, they literally named the auditorium after her. It is the
That's
Ian Lamp
incredible.
Auditorium, and
What a
like,
wonderful story.
like, it just tells you like how much like she was valued, how much the music program at the school was valued. Like, literally, like every year at Northern, like there would be a winter concert that people would come to. Like, I remember sneaking in the back door and watching from the rafters, like it's the Phantom of the Opera. Like like these are the formative things in kids' lives and like their young education beyond like what you think of just math and history class that really fucking matter to like how they grow up and to the people they become.
Yeah, we're not raising automatons here. We are raising people who are going to go into various industries, become, get various jobs. We're not raising the same student to get the same job. They need to be presented and exposed to different ideas, different concepts, and
and I probably wouldn't be a good writer if I didn't have much exposure to art.
There you are. Yeah, that creativity we need it in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter what job you do.
And it's funny because it's like admittedly in grade 12 English class, on my report card, it showed I skipped half the classes that year. But I got a 92. Yeah, I got a 92 because when I showed up to class, I made it worth it for the times I wasn't in class.
That's what I call really showing up. And through the supervision, trustees can't show up. So you may have seen the very last board meeting for this current round of trustees through 2026.
Oh yeah.
They are not allowed to sit in their seats. They're not they just sit in the audience while the supervisor is making all the decisions.
Oh yeah, like you've effectively, they've all been removed from office in effect.
Well, exactly.
There are no, like, the elected governance has been removed from these school boards, and Doug Ford is saying that he has altered the deal and that you should pray he does not alter it any further.
I can't believe it. Like, I saw trustees post, this may be my very last act as school board trustee, when they posted a picture at the Pride Parade.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, like, I don't imagine they'll leave supervisorship until the 2026 election, and he might just very well decide with his super large majority that school board trustees will no longer be a thing at all.
Totally. I mean, this supervision thing is only in cases of extreme emergency.
Right.
You don't do this lightly. Like, you are basically removing the school board director, who's had probably decades of education experience.
And they don't use this for like actually egregious things like Catholic boards trying to ban students from having pride flags.
Which is absolutely egregious, unacceptable, and like,
when you have like Catholic school board trustees comparing gay people to animals, it's like and it's like they don't use supervisorship there when like there's outright blatant bigotry and discrimination at a board. But they'll do it to fuck over progressives who are trying their best to give kids a good education.
Yeah, just fuck over public education while we're on the topic.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a point where, we maybe the next step is charter schools. Where, the more you pay, the better, the better chance you have at an education.
I went to a private school from kindergarten to grade 8, and I can say pretty definitively that public school was leagues and fathoms beyond like a superior experience. Perhaps not necessarily all of the nicest things, but definitely a better place for a kid to grow up.
I agree from everything I've seen and heard. It just it doesn't seem like you're getting value for what you're paying for.
No, you're not getting, like, a lot of times, like, it's more expensive than fucking university tuition at UFT or McGill, which is just flat out absurd. But also, it's not just that. Even if it was a good quality education, and sometimes it is, the problem is when you create a culture where it's not the kids of the entire community, it is a selection of specific children. That is like one of the greatest ways to get children to grow up to become bigoted pieces of shit. They're like, I got special opportunities. I must have been better than those other children.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We have to keep public education strong.
Yeah, and it's like that's why I'm honestly opposed to private schools in general, because I am of the like beyond just education, there is also a social benefit to schooling in that it brings the community together. Like, and I mean, I know like the private school I went to was a Jewish school, and like everyone was white. Everyone was white. And that, like, that was not good. And part of the reason I chose to go to public school, like, for high school, and it was an active decision I made myself, that my parents respected, and I appreciate that, was I was like, this is not normal. This is not what Toronto looks like. Like, I want to grow up around other people who do not look like me and talk like me and act like me. Because... like, I don't know if you ever saw, there's this old episode of SpongeBob where Squidward, he moves to a gated community where it's just full of other Easter Island heads with other squid people who do the exact same hobbies as him. And he's initially happy there, but eventually he begins to, like, lose his goddamn mind because it, because, like, he... And like people online now joke about it as like the Squidward ethno state episode.
That's incredible.
It's like you should actually watch it, both you, Norm, and everyone listening at home, because it's genuinely hilarious. Like
kids and I are going to watch that tonight.
It's like literally like Squidward moves to an ethno state, and he's like, "Wait, this sucks."
There's a lesson in there, kids.
No, yeah. So, you know, maybe that helped me make my decision.
Thank you, Squidward.
Yeah, but yeah, closing out this headline topic, folks, send your kids to public school, and if you vote for someone who hurts public schools, then I will find you.
Thank you for standing up for our children, Jake.
Oh, of course. Moving on to our third and final topic of the day, a local story going from the provincial down to the municipal. A Vancouver man says institutions are unable to recognize the new Indigenous name of his street. Now, there is an asterisk on this, which means I have zero sympathy for this man. The city of Vancouver decided to rename the former Trutch Street to... an Indigenous name, which is a nice thing. It's obviously not the be-all and end-all of reconciliation, but it's the Musqueam name. It's written in the North American phonetic alphabet, and it's pronounced šxwɔməthkվəy. Now, I will give people credit. The North American phonetic alphabet is not exactly taught in schools, so it's a bit of a difficult sign to figure out how you're supposed to pronounce. But and it's created difficulties for people. For this one man who said he couldn't put it on the form for his bank because those characters aren't accepted. However, the reason I have zero sympathy here is because the city predicted this and created a second sign with an English translation of the name called Musqueam View. So you can just use that. Yeah, like, but so I don't have much sympathy for this man. Like, but I also, there was some questions about why the banks can't take this. And I thought this was a good opportunity to talk about character encoding on computers and cause many people's eyes to glaze over. And yeah, so
yeah, you're right. You see some characters there that are not on the keyboard.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's people have to remember in like the 70s and 80s when computers were, the dawn of computers was rising. People have to remember that the idea of building computers for anything other than just the English alphabet wasn't actually considered yet at the time. There was the ASCII format, and essentially it only had like 90 or so characters, and they were mostly just English language characters, and not even ones with like diacritics. So like for French, there was no like accent aigu for a grave. Like And because that was kind of all you could fit in the limited storage space of these very early computers. And in Japan, for example, in the late 80s, Microsoft released a special version of DOS called DOS V, and the idea was this had special support for Japanese characters, and it had to essentially make a whole other version of it, and then a version of Windows 3.1 that could run on top of it. And the idea was it could also be compatible with Western software, but it needed like extra software support for Japanese characters. Thankfully, in the time since then, we've developed something called Unicode, and Unicode lets us just have the symbols for pretty much every alphabet you can think of, which means we don't have to have 10 different versions of Windows for every alphabet under the sun. And Unicode, beyond just letters and syllables, obviously, gives us things like emoticons and emoji. So if you've ever wondered where the upside-down smiley face or the melting smiley face you use when you're at your mental limit come from, Unicode. Now, eye-glazing portion over. But the reason this is a problem for banks and also for governments is because they kind of coded their software back literally in like the 70s and 80s. And they've never updated it since. So while most software nowadays will store text in Unicode, these do not. So, and it's just not practical to I mean, for one, going back to the Japanese example, if a Japanese person needed to fill out a form in English, they would just use the English transliteration of their name. Like, so, and I mean, for this one, we have it even a little better. There's better than just the transliteration. Musqueam View is the official English version. So I understand why the bank has a problem. Furthermore, I understand why it really is just financially not feasible for the bank to fix that problem. Like, especially because, like, it's it's unfortunate, but like especially because it's very old software and not a lot of people know that language anymore to change the software. You can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a software developer. If you know COBOL, there are about 6 people in North America who will hire you, but they will pay you more than God.
That's right. Yeah. Don't look at a bank terminal unless you want to get sad. Look at a very old computer.
So, Norm, for our no prize question of the week for pointing out the obvious, do you think this man should have just looked at the second sign in English right below the street sign outside his house?
Yes, and he's being deliberately obtuse because he doesn't like the name change.
And I thank you for pointing that out and bringing it around from my technical rant to the actual theme here of, racism, which is bad. In case it needed to be pointed out that it's bad.
Like, renaming streets using Indigenous names acknowledges Indigenous history, helps us work towards reconciliation, and it's a good thing. And we should embrace it.
And it's like literally the only complication they already solved, because they have 2 signs, one with the phonetics for the proper name in Musqueam, and then one with the English name that has also been approved by the Musqueam Nation. So it's just it pisses me off. It pisses me off when people are intentionally obtuse and cause this kind of stress, especially because they're like, we didn't get enough notice. No, this hat change was voted in 2021.
It's hard to give more notice than that, I have to say.
And like, I'm not a fan of Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim. I see him as a bit as right wing and not good for the city. I'm a big fan of parties like Cope and Sean Orr, although I was criticizing him for a vote he did on housing, but mostly I like the guy. But on this one, I agree with Ken Sim. But like he flat out said, Musqueam View shows when you look on Google Maps. So like no one's having any difficulty. Everyone knows where to deliver the pizzas. And he said, change is hard, but it's the right change. So congratulations to Ken Sim on receiving a rare Jake Landau props.
The clock is right twice. The broken clock is right twice a day. So there you
Indeed. Well, we've got it. He's been right once today. We'll see if he gets to twice.
Halfway to broken clock.
But yes, in conclusion, I do hope that to actually see perhaps more streets do a similar thing, not just
Yeah.
in Vancouver, but in places across the country. I think, like, while yes, it's not perhaps the biggest part of reconciliation, I also think, on the other hand, there is something to be said for the actual revival of Indigenous languages in daily life. And this is one of the ways you do that.
Absolutely. In Toronto, we are renaming Villiers Island Minising, which means Black Cherry Island.
Right.
And
it's a nice name.
wonderful thing.
Like, it's
And,
like the name's going to catch on.
Yeah, it speaks to the history of it. It recognizes the Indigenous history here. It's a win-win.
Right, and it's such a small thing you can do to just show basic decency. And again, it's not the be-all end-all of what reconciliation demands. We have far more work to do than land acknowledgments and street names.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
For one, clean drinking water would be great.
Yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
they waited long enough for that. They shouldn't have had to wait.
Well, I'm glad that Trudeau left office having fulfilled the promise to completely solve that problem.
Not so much.
Okay, I'm getting sad. Norm, it has been an absolute pleasure as always having you on the show. Hopefully we'll have you again soon for a three-peat.
Oh yeah, I always go for the three-peat.
Indeed. Norm Di Pasquale, everybody, a local advocate, a former school board trustee, and also just an all-around cool dude.
Thank you, Jake. The feeling is mutual. Right back at you.
Yeah. And that'll do it for this week's episode, but don't worry, folks. We will have a new guest next week who will also be very good, or maybe they won't be. But either way, we'll have fun. We always have fun. I think we have fun. So long. This is the end of the show. Bye.